This is the third instance in our series of MakerTalks, and this is going to be about how to start your creative business. We are so excited to welcome you guys here, and thank you so much for coming. I am your host. You can call me Zach, Zach Nicholson, no relation, of course, to the actor. And you know, besides me, I've got my lovely guests who all represent a pretty unique facet of creative businesses. They should give us a lot of different, interesting perspectives, and I can't think of any better way to introduce them to let them introduce themselves. We'll start with you, closest to you.
Okay. My name is Rachel Haycox. I own Haycox Creative Co., which is a visual brand studio for small businesses in DFW and all across the country. We started 5 years ago, just me. And now we have a team of creatives that service clients in video, photo, social media, web design, all of the creative needs that a small business could have that they can't utilize without outsourcing to someone else. So that's a little bit on.
Nice.
My name's Charles Wallace. I am the father of a 1-year-old boy, and I'm also an attorney here in Frisco. We are Creedon PLLC. We are a business and branding firm. We help our clients start businesses, build their businesses, enforce their brands, and really get to where it is that they're trying to go. I'm also the firm's trademark attorney. I was an actor and a musician in a past life, and also maybe somewhat of a dancer, depends on who you ask. But now I am helping to rep entertainment artists and also people who are starting their own business. Whether that be a marketing agency or they have a particular product that they like or a particular service. We basically do it all, and I am loving it. And that's what I do.
Great. Awesome.
I'm Von Tobiteri. I'm one of the founders of Urban Hydration. My wife and I started the company about 10 years ago, and today it's evolved from where it started. We used to make bras and lingerie for Walmart and JCPenney and Macy's. And at the same time, we're selling clean skincare products. And now we focus on that. We sell skincare, hair care, and hand and body lotion to Ulta, CVS, Walgreens, and several others. And we have a lot of fun doing it. 3 little kids between the ages of 6 and 10, all born in November. So, pray for me on that. But we have a lot of fun with what we do. It's been quite the experience building the business from the ground up. And hope we're able to share something that will help you this evening.
Awesome. Thank y'all so much. It's really cool to see what we've got here, in y'all experienced, established. But part of the reason we've got this specific group assembled here is because we can really get a different perspective from each of them. We have a business here that offers service. That's the primary. I want to say product, but it's service.
But it's
not product. And we've got the legal side of things here, knowledgeable in one of, if not the most crucial facets of business. And we have a product business here. We've got all these different angles for you. And we're going to have some questions in here that maybe are more particularly geared to somebody with a product business, maybe somebody more with the service, or maybe somebody with a lot of legal knowledge. Should be able to recognize them when you hear them. And same goes for y'all. Without any further ado, we've got a lot of questions, so let's go ahead and get started. I'd like to start at the beginning. It's usually the best place to start. How did you guys really find your niche? For creatives out there, it can be a lot of ideas kicking around in their heads. You got to find the good one to stick with. So how do you find that for yourself?
I can start. When I started out, I kind of said yes to everything. As a creative, I wanted to try as many different clients, industries, corporations, small businesses, just to see where I fit in. Then I gravitated towards what I felt most passionate about, which ended up being telling stories of female-owned small businesses, giving voice to people that may often not feel like they have the resources to, especially female entrepreneurs, small creative businesses. So I think it was just about really focusing and being present when I was doing shoots on location. What was I really enjoying doing, and who was I enjoying working with where did my skill set breathe the most, where did I fit in the best, and that's how I kind of found my niche.
Nice, excellent.
I have a very diverse artistic background. I've been in front of the camera, behind the camera. I've been in front of the computer editing. I've been on the stage as the frontman playing in Deep Ellum. I mean, I've really kind of run the gamut of the performing arts. And at one point, I was asked in one of my previous positions, to create a contract for one of our actors who was going to be on the film set with Johnny Depp in one of his movies. And so I got kind of nervous, thinking, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to create a contract. At this point, I'm just a young kid, just a couple years out of college. I'm not really sure how to do this sort of thing. And I did my best. I found some things online, and I thought it looked okay, and we sent it off. The movie got made. Everything went fine. Nothing went wrong, but there was always that kind of thing in the back of my head that what if something had gone wrong? And I'm sure if I looked at that contract today, I would just be beside myself, but everything went fine. And so I thought, I really want to learn how to actually do this for real, and actually really truly help people, and help my people who are interested in the arts, and people who are interested in making things and making people smile. And so that's why I went to law school and became an attorney.
Awesome.
We found our niche in the skincare space just by being the customer and listening to the customers. Our focus was, there's so many skincare brands out there. How can we differentiate ourselves? It had to be a combination of things. Everything we made had to make sure it moisturized and hydrated the skin, but also that it was affordable and that it smelled good. There's some products that smell good, but they're going to dry your skin out. You end up having scales on your feet and flakes and dandruff. There's some stuff that's, it's clean and natural, but it costs $50 a bottle. We want to have affordable, clean, and it's hydrating. And I think we sort of hit our sweet spot now where we are. And, it's in listening to customers, we read reviews, get feedback, and we're always fine-tuning our assortment and seeing how we can better deliver on that. And having been in the fashion business, I want to mention that as well. We originally started out just wanting to make pretty lingerie in the past, and then we figured out that our best customer was a plus-size consumer. So for several years, we sold the first G-cup bra to Walmart in its history, and focused on triple D and double D, and that was interesting. So, yeah. I say that because I got kicked out of the photo shoots. So, yeah.
We're already getting the triples perspective working beautifully right now. All right, we found it with passion, we found it with perseverance, and I literally think the true discovery of a niche, like a need that wasn't being fulfilled. Mm-hmm. This is going better than I could have hoped. But now that we know what we want to do, when you've found that niche for yourself by whatever means you've come across it, from that point, there's a ton of stuff that still needs to happen. Businesses don't just appear overnight. So very important early on, right, is, how really would somebody go about determining something like their startup costs?
I can jump in on that.
Okay.
So there's two sides to our coin at Urban Hydration. My wife is sales, marketing, product development. I'm finance, operations, logistics. On the startup cost side, we put that business plan together. The most important thing is how much it's going to cost for your legal fees, you want your trademark and things like that. Nowadays, with the digital world, you want to buy your domain. That's not that expensive, but there's all these extra things you may want to get. You got your web hosting, you got banking fees, you've got other things like how much is product development going to cost. A lot of people underestimate the cost of that. And then if you want to actually own your formula or own the design, making sure that's in the contract, that may cost a little bit more, because you may have a vendor that they're like, well, you can pay me $25, but you're gonna have to pay me $1 for every product sold. And you may want that deal, you may not, depending on what it's gonna cost. Also, there's lots of different resources online for checking to see how much it costs to register this or register that. There's different certifications you may need to get depending on the product or service you want to offer, and that's a cost. And then I just recommend checking example business startup plans that are online. Just Google startup costs for photo editing business or startup costs for graphic design business, and it'll list it out. And you may be able to find a template as well. I like Excel, but if you don't want to dish out for a Microsoft license, Google Sheets is fine as well. And then you can track your actual versus your budget, because that's the key right there. Because you can put the list together, but until you start tracking it, you don't know if you're going over or under. So that's what I say to that.
Thank you so much. You said a key phrase in there that I'm not familiar with, and that was business plan. I got no clue what that is. Can somebody please tell me what a business plan is, and how badly do I need it? Please.
I have an unpopular opinion on this one.
Okay.
I think business plans are important. I am a planner myself. I'm very type A, so I love going into things with strategy and having a specific approach. But I think creatives especially fall into a trap with business plans. They spend so much time planning and not enough time acting. So when I'm coaching or mentoring someone who maybe is working in a 9-to-5, has a corporate job, this is their side hustle, they're not sure when to make the leap, work on your business plan. It is important, but know when it's time to jump, because nothing's going to be perfect. It's not going to go as you plan. Your business plan is going to change a million times. Just know that it's going to be fluid and have a place to start, but make sure it can evolve. Have your financials in order, projections, but then take some action.
Okay, cool. Awesome. How would you know when it's time to leave that 9-to-5 with your creative business? Does it have to be like, marking a certain point where you're bringing in, enough revenue? Or is it just, you know what, the moment's right, air smells a little sweeter today, I'm out of here?
I think it's a calculated risk. So what I did was I made sure I had 6 months of living expenses saved up. So that's bare bones. Like if I was just eating rice and beans for 6 months, could I pay my rent? Could I pay my gas? Baseline utilities, and then what I needed for the business as well. Saved up 6 months and put a date on my calendar. So I made a very specific goal. I was going to bet on myself starting that date, and that's when I quit. But I think there's a fine line. Like you have to be prepared to a certain extent, but you need to take some action too.
Awesome. Cool. Whatever you're starting out with a business, you're gonna need, a name, an identity, a brand, if you will. When you're just starting out, how important is it to establish and protect that brand?
I can jump in here. So, extremely. Let me just say, when you're building your brand, that is really the foundation of everything it is that you're going to be doing. It's your whole identity. It's this. It's walking into a place like Maker's Gym and saying, I know where I am. I recognize this brand. This means something to me. This has an incalculable goodwill that I can just feel and see, and I just know what this brand is. That's what you're building. So to come up with a name is extremely important. To come up with a good name that is distinctive and unique is extremely important, because all too often we see people come up with names that they just love, and they've just fallen in love with a certain name. They begin spending marketing dollars. They begin getting all these various things together. They form a business, and they sometimes even start operating, only to find out that, oh, that's already a registered trademark, or that's very, very close to a registered trademark, or maybe it's not a registered trademark, but there's another company in my vicinity, in my general region, with the same or similar name, and then they have to stop. They have to rebrand. Maybe if they're a products company, they have a lot of products packaging and actual products that they now can't do anything with. It really becomes an issue. So I like to think about it as branding is your bedrock. You really need a really solid bedrock that you feel and that is available, that that you can go forward and you can begin to build on top of this. because without doing that kind of due diligence on the front end, it's like maybe building your business on sand. You don't know whether you're going to slip to one side or the other. You don't know whether you're just going to crumble completely someday. And it's really heartbreaking for someone who has had friends in various industries start their own businesses and seen this happen to them through the years, where they have built something and they've spent lots and lots of money on marketing, on getting out there and getting things started, and then only to have to rebrand and have to spend money on that rebranding, and just to end up coming out at a loss and maybe not ending up where they thought they were going to be because they hadn't done that initial due diligence. So it is very, very important at the very beginning, and I know I'm very biased because this is my very field, but if you don't start with a solid foundation, you don't know if you're going to be able to build as high as you want to build.
Okay, so in order to like avoid some of those legal pitfalls, how early, should a business owner be making contact with, somebody with legal counsel who can help them protect their brand?
As soon as they have a great idea.
Okay.
Honestly, if someone has a really great idea and they say, Charles, I want to make a place that offers all these various different services, I say, great. Let me see if there's anyone else that is doing that. What name do you want to use for your business? They tell me. I say, great. Let me see if there's anyone else using that name. Maybe in that field, maybe in a similar field. So if you're offering, if you want to make a clothing brand and someone else is making, say like a cosmetics brand, those are usually pretty different. So if the brands are very similar, I might say that's fine. This cosmetics brand likely is not going to go into apparel. You're probably going to be okay. Of course, in your instance, you did apparel and cosmetics, so maybe that's a bad example. But it's something that you do need to look at initially. As soon as someone has a great idea, just talk to an attorney. And we honestly talk to people all the time that just call us up and say, hey, we saw you on Google. We wanted to just reach out to an attorney who knew what they were talking about branding. I have this idea, this is what I want to do. And we just kind of tell them, hey, it's not going to happen, or it might happen. Let me help give you a good strategy on how you can move forward and actually build something that will work, something that you'll like even better. And oftentimes, people who come to us and they are just dead set on a brand that they love, they're like, this is the name we want. It's half of my name, it's half my partner's name. We slap them together. It's distinct, it's unique, and well, sometimes no, it's not. There's something else out there that's like it. And I would say probably 90% of the time, when you eventually come to the name that you end up with, you'll love it. It ends up becoming something that you've got some ownership in, something that you feel like you have been a part of that creative process of building the name. And then you've got your bedrock. Then you can actually start building your brand. And sometimes it's a lot of work. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes you just come up with a great distinctive name at the outset and you get lucky. But it is important to do a lot of that searching on the front end, whether that's for the name itself or for specific products or specific services that you want to try to brand. All of those things are good to run by an attorney first, just to get that reassurance that I'm about to spend a ton of money on this next endeavor. Let me make sure that's a good idea first.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I look out into the crowd. I see a lot of faces with very good ideas behind them. Have you met Charles?
Some of you. Some of you. We'll meet.
So you've got your great idea. You've got legal protection. Now, how are we even going to go about, say, if we've got a product, manufacturing, production, operations, all of that? Even if I had a great idea for skincare, like Montoba, I don't have the stuff to make it at my house. So where to even begin when you have a product in your brain? It has to become real. It has to start to be manufactured.
To me, whether it's a product or a service, it always begins with proof of concept. So meaning you may need a prototype, you may need some samples, you may need just a friend or family member to try out what you offer. I have a cousin who does photography, and his first client was his niece and nephew-in-law got married, and people loved the pictures, and all of a sudden he has a business. So actually jumping right into manufacturing, unless you have a big startup budget, can be difficult, because a factory may say, well, my minimum is 25,000 units, but you may find, at first, you may find, if you're in fashion or something, a grandma who can sew up 5 pieces for you, small, medium, large, extra large, XXL, and then you have family and friends try them on, wear them up to a party, put them on Instagram, and then people like it, and then you can start turning it into a business. Now, if people say, oh, I don't like that, oh, that looks weird or something like that, or they're like, the skincare dried me out, look at my hand, it turned gray. You can't sell that. So proof of concept, that's a phrase I hope sticks in your mind once you're past the legal sort of solidified stage.
Thank you. So you talked about giving those the prototypes out and like having people wear them out at parties. How do you really start to establish, that kind of it's almost networking, isn't it? Where it's your brand is doing the networking on its own almost. You're getting people familiar with it. Did you guys have any like particular steps you took with networking, or like it seems to happen for a lot of people, it just happens over time? You spend enough time around an industry, you start to know people.
I mean, we gave out products at church, and we put products in the bathroom at church. And there was a story about scrubbing some grandma's feet with sugar scrub to get them to learn about the product. And you got to start where you are. Now, mom or dad, they're going to tell you that the scribble picture is the next Beethoven or Mozart or something. I'm mixing up music and art, but once you get beyond that, if people are saying they love it, you got something on your hands. Those cookies taste good, or that graphic design, people are like, wow, that's original, that's unique. You got something on your hands.
Yes, I totally agree. Like, people responding to it is obviously like the best thing that can happen when you get those positive responses. And that kind of opens up another door where you can look at somebody else and say, hey, these people love it. If we had a little more money, a lot more people could love it. And that comes to the big question that I think almost every business is going to have to ask themselves at some point, which is, how do we get investors? I don't know, do y'all?
Well, we don't take investor dollars. We're 100% self-funded, so I might not be the right person to answer the question.
Gotcha.
Our angel investors are in the room. I won't point them out, but we met them at church, and they always told us that they invest in the people. So if you have good character, good reputation, somebody can ask somebody about you and they say, oh, they're a good person, they're a person of their word, then that's a good place. That is the only place to start. And then you really have to be able to explain your idea in 30 seconds or less and make it clear that you understand who your customer is, what your mission is, what your purpose is, and what makes you different. If you're able to clear those hurdles, then it's usually a setup for another conversation. But networking is key. You never know who your uncle or aunt might know, or pastor or mentor, guru. They may know somebody who's looking for businesses in the creative space. And as long as you're not asking for too much or to use it for the wrong things, then they'll give you some money. Watch lots of Shark Tank too. That's helpful.
Good, I've been studying. Question of the times here. We've gotten a lot of questions. We're going through a lot of questions of the meticulous nature of making sure all the cards are aligned for the startup and giving yourself the best shot of success. And when is sometimes a big part of that. And right now, has COVID really affected the growth of business at the moment? Is it a good time to start?
I think it is. I think a lot of, particularly in our firm's field, we found that a lot of our clients have adapted quite well to the changing times. And of course, things were a little strange in the first couple of months of COVID and shutdowns. but people just kind of with our evolving world, with everything kind of becoming virtual now, and just with people creating products that they know are going to be needed, whether that be PPE or something else, we've had people adapt. And I think as long as you are a business owner who knows your market and who knows what it is that your clients want, and you listen to that, then I think you're going to be successful. I really strongly believe in what you were saying. You know, if you are if you're dealing with good people, and if you yourself are a good person, if you're talking to people and you get them to know you and like you and trust you, it's going to work out. But you also have to put in the work, and you have to be listening to kind of what's going on out there. But to answer the question directly, I found that a lot of people are adapting and kind of overcoming any obstacles, and especially now that things are opening back up. I mean, business is only getting better, so I'm very pleased at how things have gone, and that the shutdowns really didn't negatively affect everyone. And really, it's those strong people who have those strong connections with others, which is the most important thing when it comes to running a successful business. They have stayed successful, I've found.
Wonderful. You know, so a little bit of the always true thing when you're dealing with money, which the best time to start was last week. But I'm glad to hear that, you know, if you're adaptive, if your ear is to the ground with your market, you can make it happen. You can make it work. Awesome. I'd like to hear from all three of you guys on this next question, because as I understand it, you all have clients, right, of some form, just maybe taking some different shapes between the three of you guys. But what advice would you give on gaining those clients and maintaining them?
Ooh, I feel like I built my entire client book off of relationships. I go into every relationship with a client, even a prospective client, wanting to be the best interaction they've had that day. And if I do a project with you and you don't book me again, I consider that not a failure, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
My goal is for you to enjoy the experience and have such a good, positive interaction, love the product, and enjoy whatever it is, the shoot, the design, the entire process from start to finish, so much that you want to work with us again. And I've spent a lot of time, I guess, trying to find, we talked about this a little bit with the first couple questions about how you found your niche, the things that you're passionate about and you gravitate to, that passion will come through. And I really nurture my client relationships. I take that really seriously.
Awesome, yeah.
I do too. I mean, I work in a field that is very people-centered. It's a very service-driven industry. People typically don't enjoy talking to lawyers, so and I get that. I came from a very arts-heavy background, and I actually said at one point, I am not going to become a lawyer. A lot of my friends were telling me to, because I was an actor, and they thought you could litigate, you could do this, that, and the other. And I thought no. But now that I am a lawyer, that's a little bit of a longer story. I've really come to appreciate the importance of making those connections with people and maintaining those connections with people, and not necessarily even marketing. We don't do a lot of marketing. We don't do a lot of outreach. A lot of our business comes from word of mouth, from just going out and meeting people, listening to people's stories, hearing about what it is that they do, and maybe just kind of offering up some advice or some background from some of your own clients. And if they maybe think to say, hey, maybe I need to call Charles because I have this entertainment issue, or I need to get a trademark, or this, that, or the other, they may do that, but it's not because I asked them to, if that makes sense. So I think my main takeaway is kind of a good marketing strategy sometimes is not to market, is to just make sure you're going out and spending time with people and helping them achieve their goals by just being there, just listening, and telling them your own story. It's not always about marketing and networking. I don't like networking. I like meeting people, and I like learning about people. I'm more of a listener than a talker normally in networking type situations. But I found that people like to talk about themselves, and that's great. And often it's good to ask further questions because you are interested in what it is that they're saying. And it's important to maintain that and to have them know that it's not all about them. You know, they're kind of helping make it about you because they're interested in your business. So that's kind of one of the main things that I've learned as an actor, as a people person, as a humanities major, and now as an attorney.
Our founder team spent several years in sales, contract sales on one end and banking on the other end. And one thing we took to our company was a relationship-driven approach where we really wanted to get to know our potential customers, if it was a retailer, and understand what their needs and their pain points were and that we could help them. So there may be a retailer and they're like, well, candidly, we need more black-owned brands in our stores. So we'd really hone in on who we are and where we come from and how we feel that need. And we've had some retailers where they say, we want more female founder-led companies and women-owned companies, and we'll lead with that, with our certificate. Or they may say, you know, we're looking for a product that's going to bring an aloe collection. So we like Urban Hydration has a great aloe collection. And just understanding that pain point and that need and listening to them and understanding what white space we can fill, you know, to help them. Because really, you know, the buyers, the customers, they want to do business with great people, but at the end of the day, it has to be a mutually beneficial relationship, and it's like, what's in it for me? So if we're able to give them the answer to that, what's in it for me, and be nice and good people at the same time, then they're probably going to do business with us. Now, depending on the type of business you're starting, if you're going out to the general public, you're going to have a lot of customers, a lot of volume, then that's probably going to be social media, establishing some funnels through lead generation and email capture, things like that. If you're going maybe a smaller number of customers, that may be cold calling, knocking on doors, direct mail. If you're going to a small number of customers, LinkedIn is great for that. Like if you're trying to land that $1 million contract or something, LinkedIn, networking through that, being in different groups, answering people's questions, posting articles, becoming an expert in the field, that's how you get that. And then government contracting, that's a whole other thing right there in terms of how you land those customers. But it depends on your industry, depends on your field, because that's how you're going to target and focus on who you're going to get. Like there may be 10 photographers in the room, one focus on, I'm going to get all the government contractors, I want every city hall to use me as their photographer. Or another may say, I want every airline in the Dallas area, Southwest American, to use me for their magazines and their airline photos, their media, their press. So there's different ways to target and do a niche, like you said, where that's going to determine how you hit that. LinkedIn, social media, cold calling, whatnot. So.
I absolutely adore the fact that I asked, you know, how, you know, do we get clients? How do we maintain clients? And the answer was basically be good people. Like, you know, talk with them, listen to them, understand what they want, form that relationship with them. And the fact that, you know, that's really what the mindset has to be over how do I maximize profit? How do I do that with the client? You know, speaks to why that you do have success maintaining those relationships, because if you view them as relationships, if you view them as people, that relationship becomes a lot more real than just the, you know, client relationship is. However, we all know that contracts are definitely a real thing that exists between clients and y'all, and how important are those, you know, how important are those contracts in those relationships?
Do you mean contracts in general?
It's written just contracts.
Contracts.
Here, so.
Yes, contracts are important. Let me speak to what you just said about the bottom line, and kind of making a profit is definitely extremely important. We found, though, as long as you maintain those good relationships, as long as the client knows you, likes you, trusts you, the money will come. It really, truly will. As long as you're a good person, you're putting yourself out there and really being genuine, I mean actually genuine, people are going to pick up on that. I mean, people are a lot more perceptive than you might think. So as long as you are a genuine person, the business will come. When it comes to forming those contracts with people, with your own clients?
With your own clients.
Contracts with your own clients. Let me just say, I'll be very brief on this. In my industry, contracts with your own clients really just looks like a legal services agreement. Just, this is what you can expect from me. There's really not a whole lot of promise being made on the client end. It's really mostly, we're your attorneys, we have A, B, C, D, E responsibilities. This is what you can expect from us. Here at the bottom of our contract, this is how you report us to the bar if we are not good attorneys. It's all about being open and just like being that open window. So like, look at us, look at what we do. We are here for you. We are here to protect you, and that's what our contracts look like. And I think kind of in a more of a global aspect, I think it's important to be open and be honest, and to make sure people do trust you in that regard, just so that they can know that they can keep you accountable. So by having those sorts of maybe clauses in your client contracts, it's important for someone to see that and think, okay, I can trust this person. They know what they're doing. They are giving me a clear set of expectations that I can hold them to. And then the thing is, you then have to do that. You then have to make sure that you follow that contract to a T. And if you do, the client's going to have a good experience. You're going to get more clients from that. They're going to be talking about you. They're going to be, referring you out to other people. But you have to live by your word, and that's the primary thing. So if you put it in a contract, you have to mean it.
Is there for y'all, I'm assuming you had to develop your own client contracts pertaining to your businesses. Was there any specific way that you felt, you were able to develop that contract where you got, the language that you needed in? Was it just trial and error, updating it as needs arose? Did you have a great one to start off with, a template or something?
I can speak to this a little bit. I started off with a template. I sourced my network, found some other photographers in the area, took them out to coffee, which I highly recommend. I loved what you said earlier. Not just networking, it's actually talking to people, getting to know their story. I highly recommend, if you're starting a creative business, take someone out to coffee who's in the industry that you're interested in. Just pick their brain, pay for their coffee.
Yes.
That's super important. Now I just got sidetracked. But anyway, so I started based off a loose contract that another photographer had given me. And I did learn the hard way about a lot of different things that should be in the contracts. I love my clients and I have great relationships with my clients, but it is still a business relationship, and it is so important to set expectations and to protect yourself as a creative. I eventually did go to a lawyer who did write up my formal contracts based on the issues I had had in the past, included some clauses that I definitely needed. I wish I had done that sooner, so this is a plug for him. Yeah. If you're starting a creative business, make sure you contact a lawyer, because it is important to protect yourself. I think as a service-based business, a lot of the work that I did in the beginning and really throughout my career has been what I feel like to be my own personal art. So if I'm delivering a photo or a video, I feel like it's kind of subjective, and you do need to make sure, if you are using a creative medium like that, that you are setting some parameters and boundaries, or you'll have clients come back to you for 10 rounds of edits for free, or you get so attached to what you do that you may not, like the communication may not be there. There's so many things that have come up. So I think having a contract, placing parameters around a great relationship is key. It's protecting both of you and respecting both you and your client's vision, time, everything, money.
That's exactly right, and I'm gonna jump on that briefly. It's important to make sure that the contract definitely protects you and make sure that you don't necessarily hit some of those pitfalls that are just bound to happen. But also, when you're forming that business relationship with a new client, they're going to be reading that contract, and you don't want them to be reading through this contract and think, "Who is this person? I mean, why am I indemnifying, this person? Why am I having to, release all liability for like intentional conduct?" I mean, there's certain things in the contract that you don't want. So it's really important, depending on your industry, depending on who the client is, what clauses you have in that contract, so that your contract is not off-putting and it actually makes it to where your clients run away. So there is an interesting balance that you need to hit in terms of, I'm protected and this is a fair contract that the client is going to want to sign. And that's why it's important, like you said, have an attorney look at it, but also an attorney who's in that field. So if you have an attorney who works in cosmetics or in the service industry and entertainment, then that's the type of attorney that it's usually better to say, hey, what are the typical types of clauses that are in these sorts of things, and what should I necessarily leave out of this? So hitting that balance is very important too.
Absolutely. Von Toba, you had any unique challenges in contract creation?
Yeah, having learned a lot of things the hard way, like you may have in the beginning, contacting an attorney is very important. We have some cases where Urban Hydration just launched skincare in several thousand Walgreens stores. They brought the contract to us and they said, "Here's our contract. Take it or leave it."
Yeah.
But there's another retailer that wanted our hair care, and they wanted $10,000 for every product we wanted to put on their shelves. And we were like, "You only have 200 stores. That's too much money. It'll take us 8 months to make our money back." So we went back and got them to cut it by like 90%.
Nice.
So,
Yeah.
you can negotiate some things, but you're going to have some customers where they're like, this is it, take it or leave it. If that number is nice enough, you may say, "Okay, I'll take it." But, negotiate everything else. It's all up for negotiation. And then my recommendation on contracts, I'll make this short. Don't sign any 12-month, 24-month, 36-month agreements unless you know for a fact that you're going to love their service and that you're going to use it for that whole time. Because when I tell you, we've had some contracts where in month 1, we're like, "Oh, why did we sign this? Why are we paying this money?" And they will get their attorneys on you and tell you have to pay for the full 12 months. So now every contract we do, we'll sign up for 90 days, but after that it's month to month. If you can do your service well, we'll keep going. And we've got some vendors we've worked with for 10 years. So
Awesome advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right, guys. We are coming up on the tail end of our panel here. I've got one last question from the deck of cards before we can go to audience Q&A. And I want to ask you guys a toughie. It's a kind of an easy question, but it'll make you look inside, question yourself, good stuff like that. What's the biggest challenge you faced, working with your business, whether during the startup, just normal operations stuff, higher level, just any challenge that you've really had to face and overcome? It's a hard question, I know, because you gotta think about it.
while they think about it, I can jump in.
You didn't have to think about it.
Biggest challenge, finding good people. You will all find a point where you can't do everything by yourself, and if you try, you won't be doing everything as well as you could. Everybody needs somebody to relieve some of the financial burden, some of the administrative burden, some of the strategic, operational, or marketing burden. And as you add those people, whether it's a vendor or a full-time employee, not everybody is going to fit the mold. We've had some people come into our company who we had to fire them the first day. And that's always disheartening, because you go through this 2-3 week interview process, and then you get the person on board and you realize, whoa, this person is not who I interviewed. And then we've had some people we brought on, they were amazing. And then we had an administrative assistant, she got gangrene in her big toe. And I know it sounds crazy, but she couldn't come back to work because she had to get surgery on her big toe. And I'm like, we loved her. Like, I would hire her back today if I could find her, but her cell phone number changed. But so you have these two sides of the spectrum where you got somebody you love and then it doesn't work out, and you got somebody you like. Why did you even apply? And then you have to let them go. And just it's nerve-wracking sometimes because I mean, I could tell you lots of stories about people, but I hope you all always find great people that work out, 100% employee retention rate. So
I think there's so many ways I could answer this question. I'm sitting here thinking of what was the biggest thing. I think the general knowledge that entrepreneurship by definition is failing over and over again. And as long as you get comfortable being uncomfortable and you can get back up every time you fail and learn from it, and get used to the fact that things are going to go wrong, things aren't going to go your way. In year 3 of my business, I had a major theft. All my gear, everything that I owned at the time was stolen out of my car, my drives, my backups. It was a learning lesson. It was terribly unfortunate. I had to make some difficult phone calls to some clients who lost their data. And I could have chosen to stop, to shut the business down. I, of course, paid everyone back, and I almost started from where I had 3 years ago. But I doubled down. I built the business back up to where it was, and the following year, we tripled our revenue. So
awesome.
I think it's just about knowing that it's going to happen and knowing you're going to have challenges as a creative, and just know that you keep going. Go back to your purpose. Go back to why you're doing it, and you'll always find a way through.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's tough. That's it's a different type of industry working in the legal realm. The most difficult thing I would say for me is getting a client to yes. Many times clients know what they want. Clients always know what they want. Let me rephrase that. Clients always know what they want, and they're always right. But it's difficult sometimes, depending on how set they are and how they want it. As you may imagine, from the legal perspective, there are certain ways that we can suggest clients go about doing things, and certain ways that we can suggest they go about, naming their business and starting their business and getting their contracts together and some of their business practices. But if a client is really, really dead set on doing one specific thing within the law, there are sometimes creative ways of making it work out. Because above all, it's about, we're about protecting our clients, and I know all of us who have our small businesses, we're about protecting our clients and making sure our clients are happy and well taken care of, but on their terms. So it's you as the expert, you as the business owner, it's really on you to show your expertise and to show that you are taking care of them and that you are thinking about what could happen maybe 3 or 4 steps down the road, whereas usually the client is, I'm not sure who your specific clients are out there, but usually the client is right now this is what I want, and then way down in the future this is where I'm going to be. And sometimes as the person who's taking on those clients, it's your responsibility to think of, okay, well, what happens in the meantime? What could happen if you make this choice? So I guess making those creative decisions is kind of the difficulty that sometimes I find myself in, by getting the client to yes, saying, yes, I hear you, yes, we're going to do that, and here's how we're going to do it. It may not be the way that you thought, but this is what I think is right, and this is why. And I think kind of the main takeaway that I think hopefully will be helpful is, in your industry, you're an expert in your specific field. Help them understand that by telling them why. Always explaining things. It's very easy to respond to an email by saying, yes, or this is what I need. But it's a lot more helpful to your clients to say, yes, this is what I need. I need X, Y, and Z, and this is why I need X, Y, and Z. And then this is why it will help you, And then always say, do you have any questions? And really mean it. Really always be open and making sure that everything is always abundantly clear to make sure that you keep that client relationship open, to make sure people are, happy with your services, and knowing that you got them to yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for answering our questions. I think it's about time for us to move to the audience Q&A section of the panel. So if you guys out there have any questions for our three guests here, now is the time. Raised hands, anyone? Well, you want to do raised hands? We can walk you through and we'll bring that mic out for you.
Check, mic check. There we go.
Sounds real to me.
What's up, everyone? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I know, Rachel, you guys have talked about setbacks. No, not failures, but setbacks.
Yes.
Setback to prepare for a comeback. And I know a lot of people who start in businesses, they really think, and they hear those stories, they see the success of someone like Bill Gates or whoever, and say, oh, wow, success, but they don't really know what they went through and who they become. And I'm asking a question for all three of you guys. All the struggles and the setbacks. You can go back to your pre-startup, who you were as a person and who you became. What would you say to that person? Like, you are who you are right now. What would you go back and advice that you'll give them to yourself in pre-startup and say, all right, this is who you're going to become? What would you say to them, to you?
Wow.
He didn't get a liberal arts degree, by the way.
Wow.
That was a good question.
Yeah.
That's a great question, yeah.
I'm thinking.
I am an attorney at our firm. I don't own the business, but if I were to go back and kind of talk to maybe pre-law school Charles, I would definitely say, your heart's in it. I mean, this is a, prepare to strap in. This is a very people person kind of job. You're going to be dealing with happy people, but you're also going to be dealing with a lot of unhappy people. And you're going to have to be able to explain things very, very specifically. And that means you're going to have to know things very, very specifically. So, as long as your heart's in it and you're in it for the long haul, you're going to be okay. And I think that can translate to any job. As long as your heart truly is in it, as long as you kind of understand from someone else in the field that you've talked with and kind of pick their brain about, kind of what it's like a little bit. If your heart truly, truly, truly is in it, even with setbacks, you can make it work and you can make it happen, because it's not always about financial success. It's about going home, going to bed at night, knowing that I helped somebody. Like, I made someone's day today. I helped someone, start a business, or I helped, create something beautiful. That's a really wonderful thing to be able to have that feeling. So, basically boils down to believe in yourself. You got this. As long as your heart's in it, it's going to be okay. It's going to be hard, but it's going to be okay.
Yeah, I might say something very similar to that. I don't think that Rachel 5 or 6 years ago could ever have imagined the opportunities or the projects that we're getting to work on now. I speak from a position of having been through it, and I say, maybe too flippantly, like, you're going to have setbacks. It's okay to keep going. But it truly has been difficult. I think I would go back and tell her, stay the course. Connect back with why you're doing this. You're doing this to give female entrepreneurs voices. You're doing this to help someone grow their business, helping them create a better future for themselves, helping that business's mission come forward. So very similar to what you said, I would just say, stay the course, believe in what you're doing, believe in yourself. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Because, there can be days where it's up and down. Entrepreneurship is such a roller coaster. When you're building a team, even, the bigger we get, our companies, I'm sure you can attest. Sometimes I get asked the question, how often, or have you ever wanted to quit? And I say, every week. There's something every week where I'm like, oh, but then something else happens and you're right back up and you're like, it's going to be okay. So just admire the pits and the valleys. They both teach you something, and it's going to be okay.
That's good.
Thank you.
And
That's good.
just to add to that, that's great. I would just go back and tell my pre-entrepreneur self when I was a banker, or maybe even before that, hey, there's bad things that are going to happen, and it's never as bad as you think. And something worse could happen later on, and that's not going to be as bad as you think when you look back on what actually bad happened. So that sounds like a lot, but I mean, it's been some things we've seen over the years, and I'd have to tell myself, like, look, no matter what happens, God is in control. Don't take it personal. It's a business. Business is business. Personal is personal. And I tell myself to just focus on personal care and separate work from home, but that I'm going to work more hours than I ever have in my life. But it's also going to be more fulfilling because I'm going to help more people than I ever have in my career. And I just tell myself to not overthink it and to take everything in stride and to work with people, not against people, and build relationships and build memories along the way. Because at the end of the day, the time in front of the computer, crunching numbers, that won't matter. The laughter, the conversations, that's what will be, remembered, and the people that have been helped and served.
Thank you. Another question?
Hi guys, my name is Barry. I used to work as an institutional investor, and so I just wanted to remind the entrepreneurs here in this room that what you're seeking is seeking you. And if you're looking for money, I used to give money to venture capitalists, and they're looking for deals, and they're always complaining, too much money, not enough good deals, right? So they see entrepreneurs as a good deal. And if they do find one, they're going to be bragging to all institutional investors, insurance companies about you. So, but keep in mind, they're considered loan sharks. They're expensive capital, right? They want 200 times back their money if they could get it. So a preferable option, if you can get it, is like a bank loan. And that's where my question comes in. I'm a musician right now, and I wanted to know what are some creative sources of capital. I mean, you got one through investor, through your connections. I just wanted to know, like, as a musician too, I mean, a lot of musicians get their money on tour. Are there any other creative sources of capital? Because as an entrepreneur, I know, Shark Tank and venture capital, that's there. But what about for musicians?
I have an idea for everything. I hope that doesn't bother anybody. My wife used to call me Bill Cosby because I just go off telling the story. But I heard you talking, and immediately my mind went to licensing. So there's different websites like Ben Sound. I think they license free music, but then they have premium options where you can put your music up, and you get like 50 cents every time somebody licenses it for their YouTube video or their TikTok. And then you have stuff like, I think there's monetization on Spotify where you can get paid every time somebody listens to your download. And so just different ways, and that's recurring income if people like it and share it. But that's what came off the top of my head.
As a videographer too, I work with a couple different producers, music producers. If I have a project that I can't find a licensed song for, I'll approach them and say, can you score this? Can you come up with something? So if that may be something you're interested in, that's also an avenue. Approach someone who may need your services in a different type of way. But video could be an avenue for that.
There's reform happening right now to get music artists to be paid more for each stream. So I absolutely agree with both of my colleagues here. It's good to make sure that you are on those lists, to make sure that people are able to license your music, to kind of listen to snippets of your music, license it, to maybe hire you to help compose or arrange something. But when it comes to actually making money from those types of streams, it's difficult for music artists right now, and so we need to change that. And with the Music Modernization Act, that's a different story. That's something that is really kind of coming to fruition, and that's something that we can maybe talk about offline. But yeah, I think getting your music out there for licensing purposes is huge, especially right now that, like you said, TikTok is huge, and streaming platforms like Spotify, YouTube, Pandora. As long as you are making use of all of those platforms, the money will come in. But really, I think it just comes down to marketing at that point, just making sure that your name's out there.
Any other questions from the audience? Looks like we got a few.
My question is for Charles. What is your play-by-play for researching a trademark from the test to picking the class? And to follow up with that, what is the first class that you would typically go after for a brand new client?
Good question. So for everyone who doesn't necessarily know the trademark process, trademarks are divided into a series of classes. There's 45 of them. 1 through 34 are goods, 35 through 45 are services. So when you're creating your brand, creating your trademark, you got to figure out what mark you want to apply for and then what class of goods or services you want to apply for. So to answer your question, we've got various systems that we actually use, that we subscribe to, that help us find what other marks are out there, what other marks are registered all over the world, not just in the United States. So I think the most important thing when you are creating your brand and starting the trademark application process is to speak with your attorney, tell them what the mark is that you want, tell them what your various goods or services are that you're going to be offering. For instance, apparel, class 25, cosmetics, class 3, production services, I believe is class 41 or 42. Just various business services are class 35. I mean, there's all these various different services that have, or classifications that have a wide range of different goods and services that are somewhat related. So you really need to figure out what best fits your brand and what it is that you're doing. Because obviously, if you're a production company, you're not going to be selling clothes. You're not going to have any need for class 25 or class 3 or really class 1 through 34. You're going to be in the services realm. And so it's important to get with an attorney who understands it's called the NICE classification system so that they can get you to where it is that you're trying to go, because it's a very daunting process to start out with, trying to figure out how you want to apply. And honestly, I'd say probably half of our clients filed their own trademarks and came to us because there was some kind of an issue. And largely, a lot of those marks were filed with maybe one good. So for instance, if someone were applying for maybe apparel, they'd apply for shirts. And they didn't maybe do shirts, tops for men, tops for women, apparel. There's all these various different things that you can build out through looking at the trademark ID manual for the USPTO. I'm starting to put everyone to sleep, but no, I think that just to more succinctly answer your question, you got to talk to an attorney who understands it. It's very convoluted, but it's actually fun for me. I find it very interesting. My wife has to tell me to stop talking about trademarks, I hope that answers your question. We can talk more after if you'd like, but there's a lot of different things that you got to be thinking about. Primarily your brand and what class of kind of goods and services that you want to offer.
Watch out, he'll hit you with that hourly rate.
Okay, I have a question. First of all, I'd like to take a chance to plug my own sauce. I have a Newton Sassy sauce. So I've been in the food service business probably for about 15, 20 years now. We start creating our sauce, and I guess my question to Urban Hydration, is that okay? When did you know, I'm in a few stores now, and when did you know it was time to go to the big box stores? Because I'm in conversation with a big box store now. They have about 200 stores across Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, and they just moved into Oklahoma. When did you know it was time to make the leap?
That's a great question. It's a leap of faith and a leap based on knowledge. So looking at the data, Oh yeah. It's a risk. Really, you want to make sure that the retailer is going to help you understand their process and how they do things. When we first got into big box, we were fortunate to go through the workshop at Macy's, and they taught us everything about retail math, EDI, logistics, all these different things that are different than selling to a mom and pop shop. And that was 5 days, 8 hours every day. So that's how much knowledge we had to absorb, and we still learned a lot just reading. Every big box store is going to have about a 60-page document that goes over all their rules. The label on the box has to go this way, this direction, this size. You have to have it on the long side and the short side. The tape can only be this many centimeters wide. You got to learn all of that stuff. When you understand that and your logistics team is ready to process that, then, and you know that in the retailers you were in, that the products were actually selling, people like them, you're ready, because, you won't really know. When we were in 4 CVS stores, the sales were good, but we wouldn't really know how we do in 100 stores until we tried it. But once we saw, okay, here are the products that are going off the shelves, those are the products we put in 100 stores. So if you have a flavor that's doing great, maybe you don't take all your flavors into the big box. Maybe you take 1 or 2 or 3 to test it out, and you get an agreement with them like, hey, if it doesn't work, don't let them put you in an agreement where you have to pay them to take everything back. Make it, a mutual agreement. Okay.
So my next question, if I could ask you, is right now I've started in my home state, which is Arkansas, and it's doing well there. And so I'm making plans to move on to Texas because I just moved back here in March.
All right.
And so now I'm hitting the farmers markets, doing things of that nature, really trying to get a lot of foot traffic. When did you know it was time to go from 4 to 20 to 100? Because the box store, the big box that I'm looking at, they have over 200 stores. And he's saying, hey, when you're ready. But I've been in business for a long time.
Yeah.
And I've had the peaks and valleys. Getting a little older, I don't have time to, really jump out there and take that risk, which I know that you have to, but I'm dealing in such a different market because I've always had my own restaurants where people come. Yeah. So I have the relationships. Now I have to trust that even with marketing, things of this nature, that my product is going to sell without me pushing it.
Yeah.
So how do you, what is the risk factor, or do you just say, the hell with it, I got to go for it, and just have belief in your marketing, your product? Because, you're having competition.
Lots of competition. Skincare, food, lots of competition. And the thing is, honestly, you may have 10 products, 7 of them don't even sell that well. 3 of them make up 80% of your sales. Same thing with services. And so you have to focus on your winners, and they're still going to want some of the other ones too, but it's the losers that cost you a lot of money. So as much as possible, you want to focus on the winners. In each of our categories, we have 3 or 4 products where you put this on the floor, it's going to hit. And then a few others, you're like, oh, we should probably get rid of it, but it costs too much to get rid of it. So the main thing where you'll know you're ready is if your team is ready. So, and I want to answer quickly. We sell to Sally Beauty, JCPenney, Bed Bath & Beyond. We have employees on our team that used to work for JCPenney, Sally Beauty, and Bed Bath & Beyond. So they understand their systems, their paperwork. They were well respected at those companies. We didn't necessarily hire them away from those companies in 2 out of 3 cases, but but that's helpful. That's helpful to have that on our team. So.
Thank you all so much for your questions. I think we've come to the one more, una más. Take backs.
So thank y'all for y'all stories. First of all, it was all amazing. I have a production company, so I'm at the place where I jumped out there and said yes to everything. And now I'm in a place where I did not enjoy that. So, but I have a price point that I don't want to, that I'm having conflict budgeting with for the sake of creativity and the sake of business. In all aspects, I believe you can help me. once you know which way you want to go, marketing to that client, and then not killing your budget line, if that makes any sense. Not sacrificing, okay, so my services are $1,500 because I have a great service, but now that I'm tailoring it to these people, I may have to cut it to $700 just to keep this ball rolling.
Mm-mm. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't shortchange yourself. If you've identified who you want to work with, I think there's several ways you can go about it. One of the things that I did, I've tried many different business models. You've heard how I feel about business plans. Mine has changed so many times. Once I identified who I wanted to work with, I reverse engineered my pricing. So I said, this is the amount of money that it's going to take for me to take on the projects that I want and sustain and grow my business to where it needs to go. So if I want to pour this much money back in, this is what my revenue needs to be. And then you take away your overhead costs, all of the other business expenses, and divide by how many hours you want to work, and find an hourly cost per project. So that allowed me to, I don't know what type of work you're doing, and I'm happy to talk to you afterward too. I was in a unique situation where I was working for bigger clients and getting bigger contracts, but that work wasn't it was great. It wasn't what fulfilled my purpose and my passion. So I didn't want to outprice myself so that people who might be just starting out, don't have a big marketing budget, can't afford me. So what reverse engineering the pricing did for me was it said, okay, I need to take X amount of projects that are this big, that bring in this much, if I want to make this hourly cost. But then I can also take X amount of smaller projects. Does that make sense? I wouldn't shortchange yourself. You know what you're worth. Stick to your worth. Don't ever waver from that. Go the opposite way. Figure out how many projects need to fit in with what you currently are charging.
Smart.
Is that helpful?
That was very helpful.
Okay.
I definitely want to talk to you after.
Okay. Okay.
All right, y'all. Now I think we have reached the end of the panel for realsies. Any parting words of wisdom from y'all? Last phrase, like, one sentence. Go ahead. Press for time. All right, y'all. Thanks so much for coming in. Thank you. Once again, I'm Zach Dinley, the host. Got Rachel next to me. The panel's over.
Ready for that next
We're going to break. Everybody
job,
can
Zach.
mix and mingle. It'll be a good time. Thank you all so much for coming out. Let's give a hand for it.